The Everyman Radio Podcast, bringing you the best alternative talk, music, comedy, and more.
New music.
Podcast interview and great new music too.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Michaela, hello. Welcome to Everyman Radio.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I love just the things I've read about you, some on your site and on various places you frequent. And I like the way you start. How to speak your truth with grace and live a courageous life of authenticity. I think that sounds great, because I do have a real problem with that. And I suppose
I bet a lot of people, I think a lot of people do. And I don't think it's something that we wake up and just say, oh, wow, I'm going to make sure that everything I say today is going to come from a place of, my heart, and it's going to be authentic, and it's not going to be sugar coated at all. Because, we put up our own shame shields and things like that, as Brene Brown would say, that prevent us from speaking our truth because we're afraid of how our truth may be received or how we may be judged for our truth. So I think that it's one of those things where it's a constant work in progress to recognize, when what you're saying isn't jiving well with you, or you're not getting what you want from the people around you. You're not able to ask for what you need from the people around you because you're afraid to. And I think sometimes it takes a, severe event to realize where you kind of have this moment, aha moment of like, oh, I am absolutely not getting what I need. I'm absolutely not asking for what I want, or I'm not being truthful with the people around me in my life.
Yeah. It's it is a difficult thing. I suppose, what do? I have a bit of an esoteric bent. I was interested in I read about what you wrote about, I forget the word, meta something. Sorry.
Metaphysical? Yeah.
Yes. I think that's quite a rare thing. I don't often see people have an interest in the metaphysical. I think I kind of do, but it's not a word that I would often use. What do you mean by that? Or?
Yeah, so for metaphysical, for me, it means having an awareness that we are above and beyond our kind of cognitive actions and our cognitive feelings, and that there's a lot more happening outside of us energetically that is contributing to a lot of what we're experiencing in our day-to-day life. And so for me, metaphysics comes down to geeking out on all things astrology, numerology, tarot, energetic movement in the world, quantum touch, quantum physics, things like that.
Okay. What was that last thing you said? Tarot. Did you say that?
Yeah, so some people, tarot, oracle cards, however you want to kind of recognize them. But I feel like there are a lot of things at play around us.
Okay, I've got you now. I think it's an English thing, British, American crossover. Tarot.
Oh, yeah, probably. Tarot, yeah.
Tarot.
People say it in different ways, yeah.
Yeah, it's tarot cards. But I generally find or think, okay, I'm quite opinionated, I guess. That would be, I put that into the, how can I politely say, crazy? I don't know. It's not something I subscribe to, I guess. I think just a bit odd.
Yeah, so I mean, even if we think about it from an oracle card standpoint, I'm looking, I currently have 2 decks sitting next to me. The Answer is Simple oracle cards and the Language of Letting Go oracle cards. And the idea is just more that our energy is drawing us to 1 or 2 or 3, depending on, what kind of insight you're looking for. And that there are many different ways to tap into our energy connection and our subconscious self to gain more insight into what we need and want in our lives.
Okay. No, it sounds great. Actually, it's just coincidental. Yesterday, I was watching. It's on YouTube. It's a channel. I think they're connected with, and they certainly publish on signsofthetimes.net, SOTT.net. And I think they're in some way connected. But I think it's Mind Matters, that particular show. And they were talking about Stoics, and talking about those people that have found it successful in living a stoical way of life. And they were just talking about tips of, I suppose, trying to control that part of the mind that will just react. and I think they were just pointing out different techniques and different philosophers and prescribers to that philosophy, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't necessarily heard of the Stoics. That sounds really interesting. I'd actually like to check that out more. But to your point earlier, I don't think there are coincidences. I think those are exactly the metaphysical insights that I'm talking about. Like, for example, today, just before you and I connected, I was recording a podcast. Obviously, I'm a host of a podcast myself, and I was recording a podcast with a woman who is a religious expert, and she's got a doctorate in administration supervision, and her entire thing is that she's written books on the Antichrist and end times. And then I went to the post office quickly in between, that interview and this interview to mail a package, and the price of my transaction, the cost of my transaction, was $666. So there, right, we could say, well, that's odd. Or we could say, no, that is the universe communicating with you, either telling you are in exact alignment or giving you some weird, scary message. Who knows what? I don't think the universe sends scary messages. I think it just sends messages. I don't think they're weighted in the negative like that. But so, prime example, I mean, I could not deny that, right? But some people may go through their life and not notice that. But that would be a way that, for example, numerology would come into my life, and how I would use that message as something. To me, I took it that I was absolutely supposed to have that woman on the podcast. And, just as an affirmation. The funny thing is that I have been seeing ones and 111 and 1111 nonstop for a month. And I don't mean once a day. I'm talking 3 times, 4 times a day in various different ways and places. And so the first thing I noticed when they were ringing my transaction was that I looked at my clock, first of all, at 11:10. And I noticed that it wasn't 11:11 for the first time in a long time. That I looked at the clock, it wasn't 11:11. And so then to have it pop up as 666 was even more powerful, because I didn't experience the 11:11 that I've been experiencing, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of some of my ways of looking at the world around me and receiving intuition and insights to, listening to intuition and receiving insights to what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think, it's a very interesting thing. I know people can take these things too far and get obsessed. But each to their own, I guess. And yes, just looking at I'm trying to get more of a handle on what is it you actually do, and how you've come about to be doing that. So some notes to see that how we can find happiness in relationships. And so where does that come from, and how does that fit in with what you actually do yourself?
Yeah, so my journey has been a very long one. I think, honestly, everything's kind of come to fruition in the last year in the way that it come to fruition in the last year and a half. But, my upbringing growing up in a 27-foot fifth wheel with no electricity, no running water, certainly drove my young appreciation for the idea that happiness is attainable in spite of life's setbacks. And then migrating into a marketing career where I started to kind of dive into the psyche of people, and then eventually moving from that into a psychotherapy practice and having a psychotherapy career, getting a master's degree as a psychologist or in psychology rather. And then along that entire journey, I was always using my bachelor's degree in journalism communications to work as a freelance writer and write books. And all of the books that I've written have the same purpose, which is that they aim to inspire people by using real life stories and examples as a way to create emotion. And really for people to feel motivated that they can, that there are others that are going through similar things, and or that that they can have all of the things that they want to obtain in life by looking at things a little bit differently. So, podcast host of Be You, Find Happy, author, published author, award-winning author, actually, and former marketeer person, and now psychotherapist.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long journey to get here, but it's kind of all come together.
Yeah, and so what's the main book you have out at the moment, or that you're well known for?
Well, Teetering on Disaster is the memoir that I spoke about growing up in a 27-foot fifth wheel and in the rural Sierra Nevadas. That book has received many accolades, and so that's probably what I'm best known for. But I also have children's books and a self-help book titled Be You, Find Happy, same name as the podcast, as well as a fiction book as well.
Okay. And so that book, Do You Find Happy? Is that what it was?
No, it's called Be You.
Okay.
As in be yourself, find happy.
Okay. Yeah, the only happy books, or books with happy in the title I'm aware of, was one I was given by my uncle many years ago by Dalai Lama. I don't even think it does have happiness in the title, but it was that type of thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Dalai Lama would definitely be a good a good resource on, how to live an intrinsically happy life for certain.
Okay. And how do you suggest to people who have children how do people raise happy children when both parents work? Or I suppose for me it would be when you don't have much contact with one of with your son. So how do you raise that when life isn't as easy as one would want it to be?
So I think what you're asking is, how do you raise a happy child when you have limited contact with the child, or how do you be happy when you have limited contact with your child? Which one was the question?
Goodness. It's funny. I wasn't expecting for me to be more specific about what I'm asking. I get caught up on it. I suppose one that would just be more general, I think, for most people listening. How do
you raise happy kids?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what my experience is as a psychotherapist is that kids need to feel like they are in the driver's seat of their life. I think often as parents, we want to drive their car and, strap them in the back. But the reality is, from the moment our child is born, they are in the driver's seat of their life. And it is our job to sit in the passenger seat and encourage them, and not to dictate how they live their life, not to say, you have to believe in this and you have to live like this and you have to eat like this. But here's what my experience has been in these different areas, and here's what I would encourage you. But ultimately, your child has to be driving the car. They have to make their decisions. They have to be the one who is deciding whether to stop at the yellow light or gun it through. And where we get into situations with unhappy children is when parents say, you've come into my life and therefore you're going to live the way I live, as if they're the same person. And so what I like to encourage parents to do from a tangible perspective is offer them choices. And these choices can start from a very young age, where children who are only 2 and 3 years old can still feel like they're in the driver's seat of their car. And then your job is, of course, if they're going to wreck up, that's when you jump in and that's when you take the wheel. Or if they're getting in the car drunk, that's when you're taking the keys. But unless it's those sorts of scenarios, you're really staying in the passenger seat and just offering them advice and encouragement and suggestions. And so choices that can start at a young age that put kids in the driver's seat are, for example, for a 2-year-old can be, would you like to take a bath first or brush your teeth first tonight? And that is a very age-appropriate example of how the child can make a choice and feel like they're in control of their life. You're still getting your needs met as a parent either way, because they're going to ultimately take a bath and brush their teeth. They're going to do both. And so to me, raising happy kids is about recognizing as a parent that you only have one responsibility, and that is to provide them with as much insight, awareness, and choices as you can.
Okay. And what about technology? I suppose I know I work in technology, as I try to, and I understand. I can see how it has developed a lot negatively, and I know it's a big problem for children and parents, really, managing. Not letting their children actually be taken by the technocracy. Sorry, I don't know if that really fits. But I mean, I suppose really I'm asking that's just kind of basic parenting, really. And how do you manage and avoid your children of getting caught up in internet addiction and that type of thing?
Everybody has a different perspective and a different outlook on technology. So some people, believe that kids are growing up in a technological world, therefore they need to know how to operate within it. They need to learn how to set boundaries, they need to learn how to set expectations and things like that. Other parents take the approach of, I'm going to shield my children from technology altogether because that's where bullying happens and addiction happens and all of these different things. So, every parent has a different approach to that. I'm not one to say either way what's wrong or what's right, but I think that creating some balance for your child where they are recognizing the impact of technology on their life and then providing them with resources outside of the screens that are growth opportunities. So whether it's intentionally scheduling a camping trip for your family where there is no cell phone service or something like that. Sure, it may inconvenience your life too as a parent, but part of the problem that I see is that parents don't want their kids on their phones. They don't want their kids watching TV. They don't want their kids playing video games, but yet that's what they're doing. And at the end of the day, whatever we're modeling to our children is exactly what they're going to do. So if our phones are nowhere near us and we're saying, hey, let's get out a board game, or we're playing, blackjack at the dinner table with our spouse, that's what our kid is going to see, and that is how our child is going to learn to behave and learn what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. But with parents that sit on the couch with their faces in their phones all night that say, you've had enough TV, that's very contradictory. And so I think the first question for parents that are struggling with technology is, well, what is your technology regimen? What are you doing?
I think, that's a very good point. I don't know to what level, what awareness people have actually, how much time they do spend on the thing that they're wanting to stop in other people. Or when you're talking about being hypocritical, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would call it hypocritical as much as just having that awareness that what you're modeling is what your child is learning.
Okay. And just to kind of generally moving away from children, I guess, but the world has become increasingly mad and where I'm looking, but it does seem quite a crazy place, and lots of fear. And how can people manage that, or when they're scared about the latest whatever threat to the to the world or whatever it might be. How can people cope with that or still remain happy within that?
And you mean just the general status of the world as far as political or forest fires, or how do you mean?
I just mean general, actually, yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is, how can people remain happy in spite of things that are happening around them that maybe are devastating?
Yeah, not necessarily devastating, or just the media blowing things up out of all proportion to increase the fear of something that's not actually devastating. So, like at the moment in the UK, we have the news in the UK is about Corona, the beer, the virus in China. And so I think they do, the media does kind of portray and does, this is the next big threat we need to worry about. It's not Ebola, but this is the coronavirus, everyone. So everyone gets scared about that for a moment. I don't know, but...
Well, I think that, I think that in all of these situations, fear comes from something that's rational. When it starts, it begins as something that's rational. But it's our job to have a conversation with that fear and say, is this rational and realistic for me now? And in the worst case, what does that look like? So, for example, if we think back to Y2K, they were certain that the whole world was going to go blackened out and lights out, that was it, done, as soon as Y2K started rolling over across the world. And so, as soon as it became, January 1st, 2000, everyone held their breath to find that it was completely unrealistic, and that there was, that the fear was just totally sensationalized and dramatic. And I think that that this is the case with all of these situations. I mean, certainly something like a virus that is indestructible and kills people within, days or hours of them getting it is something that's positively terrifying. I mean, I think that that's a rational fear that, I might get sick and I may die. That's a rational fear. But then you got to start having a conversation with it and say, okay, well, when was the last time I traveled to China? When was the last time that I was, in a situation where I could actively get this virus? And if I were to be in an active situation where I could get this virus, what precautions could I take? So what things can I do to prepare myself to the best of my ability, and then let the rest unfold? And that's true for most fearful situations. There's only so much that we can do to prepare. And it's important when we're in the throes of fear to say, what action can I take? What can I do to protect myself from death, ultimately, is probably what would be the main situations, and go about my life. And then if I do end up with this, I'll have to deal with it then. There are certain things in that way that we would have to just at that point accept and figure out how to, move within it.
Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a fascinating subject. And what would you recommend for people to actually, get a handle on these things and actually make improvements to themselves to navigate the world?
I mean, I think anytime we're talking about, things that create a lot of angst, we need to carve out time in our day for some self-reflection and gratitude. I think those are both incredibly important. Connecting with what it is that you have now that is great and wonderful and working for you and is good. And what it is that you're holding on to that's not serving you in the way of your thoughts and your actions. And I think that ultimately it's important to find out how you can contribute to things in life that are positive and good. Because I feel like anytime that we are in giving, there is receiving. And so if you're in a space where you're feeling really down or really afraid or really scared, it can be helpful to find out ways that you can be a positive contributor in somebody else's life. And just that in and of itself can really lift your spirits.
Okay. No, that sounds great. And where can people, our listeners, find out more information about yourself and keep in touch with what you're doing?
Sure. The easiest way is to go to my website, michaelarenee.com, MichaelaRenee.com, or they can even just type BU Find Happy in the search bar, and I usually come right up.
Okay. Okay, great. And is there anything coming up in your world that you'd like to say or promote, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about a book that I've got coming out in June, and it's in a traditional publishing world, so I can't talk a whole lot about it yet, but it's going to be really, along the lines and well in alignment with everything that I have been working on lately, and so I'm super excited to offer that to kind of the fans and supporters that I've had over the years.
Oh, okay, great. Does it have a title? Yeah, Paul.
It does, but that's one of those things that I also can't yet. So, but listeners can find out more about it on my website and sign up for my e-journal, where I will be making exclusive announcements about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fantastic. Stay tuned.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, lovely talking with you. You've opened the box, really. Lots of really interesting topics. I think people would really benefit from finding out more from. So, lovely. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
And now it's time for some hilarious comedy on Everyman Radio.
Well, welcome to the Techno Gadget Ball Show with your host, Mr. Techno Gadget Ball.
We do this together.
Yeah, we do. So, I've been very busy, and it's making me smile. Oh, so I have a solution. Have you seen this stuff? It's beautiful. I can just put it under my armpits and spray. Yeah, that's much better. Does it come from fish?
You're good at this.
Yeah, I'm brilliant at this. And be sure to tune in to the Real Techno Gadget Ball Show when I will have a new jingle. So listen to the new jingle.
The Techno Gadget Bore Show, the tech podcast to help you upgrade your ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64.
New music.
whatever comes and goes. I said it to you then, I'll say it to you now that I have you here in my arms. I said it to you then, I'll say it to you now that I want you through every storm. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. Oh, I'll never let you go. Give me your hands and I will hold on tight through whatever comes and goes. Love comes easy. Love comes easy, easy. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my days. Oh, I'll never let you go. How do I need you? Oh, let me count the ways up to heaven to hold. I said it to you then, I'll say it to you now that I have you here in my arms. I said it to you then, I'll say it to you now that I want you through every storm. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my days. Oh, I'll never let you go. How do I need you? Oh, let me count the ways to heaven to hold. Our love comes easy, easy. Our love comes easy, easy. Our love comes easy, easy. Our love comes easy. Our love comes easy. Our love comes easy.
Thank you for listening to Everyman Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends on social media.
Goodbye.